All right, cool. So, I don't recall if we spoke or not. I don't really think it matters. But the first question is, how would you describe your relationship with New Orleans today compared to when we spoke last?
Optimistic, I feel a little. My relationship is, the question is, how do I feel about my relationship to New Orleans, right?
Yeah, describe how would you describe your relationship with New Orleans? Yeah, compared to...
Full of optimism, more than it was in 2020, I would say. Mm-hmm. Especially being in a more influential position right now with where I'm moving in my career and like having more of a hearsay about quality of life, communities, and things like that. You know, it's more empowering for the city, especially being a local. So full of optimism right now compared to how I felt before.
How has your sense of home shifted over the past few years? If so, has your sense of home shifted over the past few years? And if so, what events or experiences have shaped that shift?
Yes, most definitely. I feel very indifferent about New Orleans being like my actual place of home and like where I should settle. Mm-hmm. Specifically due to having my son, quality of life, education, you know, like the realistic things about how much it takes, how much willpower, emotional stability, financial stability it takes to be at peace in New Orleans per se, if that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Had Pops died already at that point?
Yeah. Pops died. Dad died February 26, 2020.
Oh,
COVID was announced March 13th, 2020. I think we did our interview that summer, probably like May-ish, May or June-ish.
Yeah. So has your sense of home shifted at all regarding?
Definitely. I feel more free about leaving New Orleans because I genuinely have no ties here other than my son and his family.
Yeah.
Like that. If I could up and leave tomorrow with no fight, I would.
Where would you go?
Arizona.
Interesting. They're gonna have a different set of water problems.
Yeah, you're right about that. North Carolina too, maybe.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah,
I like it over there. Looking back at your earlier interview or portrait, what stands out now, and has your story changed? I know you haven't seen the interview or whatever.
No, stories changed a lot. I would say I've had a lot of growth from then to now. Like with being an adult, learning things, accepting things for what they are, moving on from them. And not letting things that genuinely were made in my life to discourage me. It takes a lot more grit than I think a lot of people realize mentally to keep going. Like every day when you're met with disdain or a dislike or an opinion that you just don't agree with. And I'm a very opinionated person, so.
That's fact.
Yeah.
Can you walk me why you chose the location for your new portrait? What memories or meanings are attached to the space? So we're not interviewing there, but we did at the lake.
At the lake, yeah. So the lake has been a sovereign place to me. I'm big on chasing sunsets and sunrises. I think it brings me a lot of peace. It makes me feel close to my dad and things like that. I've had a long week at work. It's only Wednesday. I needed a peaceful moment. The sailboats made it even better because my grandfather painted sailboats, lighthouses, and things like that. So I always look for the signs and the things that kind of make me feel like I'm getting a hug from my angels, from my people. And I wanted to feel comfortable being able to do this again and like taking me back to the original interview and how I felt in that moment because I really thought about it.
Yeah.
And I was mad, angry at the world at the first interview, like up against anything at that time, you know. Everything was falling apart politically, Black Lives Matter, family relationships, my dad passing, nobody checking in on me. Like it was a lot to all take in at that time and be filled with anger versus now, a little bit more at peace and more positive about my future.
That's good. I mean, that's a good thing to hear. How do you remember the neighborhoods you grew up in? Have they physically or emotionally changed for you? And maybe take us through like where you consider you grew up.
Yeah. So I definitely consider most of my upbringing to be in New Orleans, Mid-City specifically. Then, you know, moving more towards Uptown, but also Gentilly in the 7th Ward. And I say so many different places, y'all, because my dad raised me, but I was always with my friends. Like, I was genuinely raised by other families in this city. You and your mom and dad, that's uptown. Like, I had Ty, her mom was right here in the 7. Like, my mom in Gentilly when we did have a better relationship and things like that. So for me, being able to see the differences in different genuine communities in wards of New Orleans and parishes of New Orleans, even Metairie, for example. I mean, my grandma's old house, not recognizable at all. Painted the brick white, redid the whole front of the house. I mean, redid us so much. I want to go knock on their door and be like, can I just walk through your home? And just like see anything that would remind me of my childhood and my upbringing, because I could literally paint the picture right now of everything and everything in its place anywhere I've ever lived or been. Your mom's pink house. Like, I could point out where Ty's mom's apartment was on Dante and over here on Hamburg. Like, I remember.
They lived on Dante too?
Yeah. I remember I could probably get to any of my friends' homes, any place that I stayed without directions right now still, and recognize it and go knock on the door and act like I still live there, and the communities, back to the actual point of the question, the communities and things, I don't want to say it's for the better, especially now being in the real estate market, because you control the tenants that you accept. You control how their credit looks, what their income is. Like, you make the decision for who you decide to move into a neighborhood on a street, especially from a property management perspective. Like, you're making decisions on behalf of owners. You let the owner know, but it's per your recommendation, And when you look at New Orleans and government subsidy programs, and it ain't even projects no more. It's government subsidy. It is HANO. It is Section 8 housing. That's now the bigger project.
It's the income.
But it's like, it's so sad, because the bare minimum that these people feel for people who just need basic bare minimum things to live, like the fact that I have to justify fixing a bathroom fixture, and it's because of a socioeconomic disconnect. Can you imagine trying to explain to a multimillionaire who's never had to want for nothing a day in his life that a person beneath him that's getting their entire rent paid for still can't afford a shower curtain rod? You know what I mean? Like getting them to understand and connect to that. It's moving mountains, my brother, and that's what I do all day long.
Yeah. What kind of spaces, so this could be homes, schools, streets, maybe clubs, feel the most like you in New Orleans?
So that's a great question, and that brings me to like holding myself accountable to doing more community engagement, because I feel like I should be everywhere. Like, I feel like because I know so many people and I have so many great connections, I really want to encompass and embody different ways to bridge those gaps and create a stronger community within our city. I see so many people like against each other, or like in the same lanes, but not coinciding and coexisting and working together, and like making a Medusa out of us in the city of New Orleans, especially as our generation, where a lot of us haven't left. Like, people we've grown up with are so successful. I don't know anyone from Audubon that isn't successful, that's not doing something massively amazing with their life like we knew that they were going to do. I can say the same about a lot of my alumni sisters from high school and things like that. A lot of them are doing things beyond their wildest dreams. And I have the utmost respect for so many people, and I just want to figure out how to bring that back to New Orleans, but at the same time, I mean, we're going against bigger evils, so I take that into consideration too.
Have you noticed changes in your community due to gentrification? Take us through that. Well, what have you seen? I mean, like the prices in rent and the conversations I have with a lot of my friends, like the similar conversation we had earlier about like lease terms and like advocating for yourself and tenant rights and things like that. The company I work for, we're moving into a better market where we notify the tenants of their rights. Their entire lease agreement, from the front page to the very back, is all the information that a tenant needs to know what rights they have,
what's their responsibility of taking care of a house and what isn't, you know? And we have to realize in our generation, a lot of us, you know, maybe didn't grow up taking care of a home. A lot of us live with grandma, you know, our aunts, uncles. It wasn't our house to take care of. And then we went to dorms, and now we live on our own, and we don't know shit about changing a light bulb in a certain light fixture. We don't know shit about termite control or spraying the perimeter of your house and, you know, cleaning up at, like, I don't want to get into the nitty gritty, but like, you can imagine, you know, the
spectrum don't know what day
is
it's trash day.
Yeah, thank you. That's a perfect example. They don't know when it's trash day. And that is like you having to handhold people through that and maintain a property. But at the same time, property doesn't have central AC. Electricity costs are high. The home isn't properly insulated. Upgrades haven't been done. But then you're asking for people to pay for 50% of their income. And then you're wondering why they're behind on their rent and their utility bill's not getting paid, but they're not paying their balance down and they're not texting you back. And it's like more and more people are being forced into that corner. I literally see the trajectory of this happen every month in the amount of people who are not paying their rent on time. It's growing. We went from 8 to 10, 15 to 20, 25 to 30, like every month. In the year 2025, right now, it's getting worse.
I mean, unfortunately, I think it's indicative of a greater New Orleans problem. I mean,
it is.
There's two. I think
it's not a land of opportunity here. There's no paying jobs.
So that's number one, big time, and that's exactly what I was going to say. And number two is rising insurance costs. Period. And
no, it's killing my owners right now.
And the feds and the state government have not figured out what to do.
No. Mandate insurance companies. Mandate them and put them at a capita of how much they can charge. The amount of homeowners
but you have to support. You have to support it federally, though. So.
But the federal government, what people don't realize is that, like right now, and I mean, we're just snowballing into bigger political issues here.
Here, wait, sit back a little bit because your head's out the.
Oh, sorry. I'm getting passionate.
Nah, yeah, you're good.
I'm getting fired up. But like politically, like we're snowballing into things here where we have to recognize the checks and balances of things.
Yeah.
And right now, I think what people aren't understanding about how like government fundamentals work is that our federal government right now on your TV screen is telling a lot of us your state needs to figure that out. The state government needs to figure it out. They have to be the one to make that decision and come to agreement on that. You guys, the state relies on the federal government to mandate the state. Mm-hmm. The state looks up to the federal government and says, here's everything we can't organize and we can't audit and we can't figure out, and this is where we're lacking. This is your job to audit it, give us our budget, tell us what we're worth, tell us what our taxes are, and break it down for us. We're voting for our constituents to not represent us well. They don't hear our voices about insurance costs. Owners are crying about losing their home. I got multiple property owners trying to sell multiple properties and just get rid of their negative cash flow, anything. But they're not recognizing why we're at this point. Yeah. And it's because of the separations and the powers that be, because people want to politically protest the system and be silent, because they're comfortable in their own home with their Wi-Fi and their clothes on their back and their vacations that they plan once and twice a year, and they're comfortable with the credit debt that they have, and they're just going to keep paying the minimum and live their life because they're just complicit in it. And I'm not. I'm very passionate, and I very much encourage doing anything to protest the system. So.
What does cultural preservation mean to you in the context of a changing city, and what would be important to preserve if you were the one designating what to be preserved?
Man, ask me that one more time. Let's start with the first part of that question.
What does cultural preservation mean to you in the context of a changing city?
So cultural preservation means a lot to me because I feel a lot of guilt. Especially I could go into detail about a story right now. Basically moved a little white girl into the hood, thinking she's in a cool enough area, she did her research on it, naive, and then 5 days later after she moved into this house, the FBI raid happens across the street. And now she wants to renew her lease, like void her lease and leave, and find a new place to live. Cultural, okay? You talk about culture. The woman right next to her sees it every day. I called the woman to check on her today. She's like, "Hey, the fuck are you calling me for? Baby, this is entertainment for me. I've grown up with this my entire life." So
She ain't get raided.
right. I mean, you got an FBI agent sitting on your block now. You should
That's
be
great.
happy. You got private security in New Orleans, baby, in the hood. I mean, come on.
I'm safe.
Yeah, baby, like you straight. And like, so culturally, preservation between you and I, this is normal. I don't like to say that it's disassociation because it's not. Culturally, me and you are from here. We grew up this way. It's normal to us. It is normal to us. Take that same scenario, put it in Lakeview. Okay? Lakeview full of gentrification, full of people who are not from here, full of people who are from Metairie, moved to Lakeview for better schools for their kids. Their kids is 5, 6, 7 years old walking home, all right, by themselves. You don't see, the differences. The differences are crazy.
Right.
The differences in what the kids have, the backpacks, everything about it is preserved in a red zone, redlining manner still. Another political term thrown at you, in that situation. I understand where we still lack major resources in underfunded parts of our city where our kids need them, parents need them. If people just had the food banks and the things they needed at their disposal, the voting polls, a grocery store, you know what I mean? They didn't have to drive 0.75 miles to. Like, I could go on and on about things that aren't changing for the better. Look at New Orleans East. Look at the demolition in Six Flags. We almost 3 years in from that job getting approved, and all they've done is demolish. They ain't done nothing else. Y'all wasting time and money sitting on that, not getting the job done because you're taking time testing the land to even see if that land could uphold the theme park you're trying to put there. 25 years later. I mean, we don't work smarter at all. So, yeah. What was the second part of that question?
I think you actually answered it.
Oh, I answered it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of asked that already. Okay. Do you carry any bodily memories of certain places in the city? So bodily memories would be like being able to call back to scents, sounds, feeling. Like when I talk to the musicians, it's about what was that first gig like? Do you remember anything about the sensory part of it?
Yeah, definitely. For example, the most recent one that I had that I think was the most crazy, realistic, like that's so Raven moments was the 5-year anniversary of my dad passing. Mm-hmm. The day, because the 5-year was literally like the 5th day being like basically the week of when it happened. It fell on the same day that it happened years ago, and the weather was the same. I mean, like when I walked outside, the breeze, like it literally felt like I was reliving the day. Mm-hmm. And all throughout parts of my day, things were like, people were like, hey, I know it's the anniversary today. Like I'm thinking about you. I'm praying for you. Like people were reaching out to me. My bosses were like, Katie, go to Katie's tonight on us. Katie's was my favorite place to go with my daddy. And we would go there every holiday, birthday, whatever the case may be. And they were like, go on us, put it on the car, whatever. And it was every flashback of just the recognition, same things that my dad would say to me, people were saying to me and so forth. And I don't think people, I don't know, it was so realistic. And I have moments like that often. Like, I see people that look like my dad, like sick people, like sickly people that look like how my dad looked towards the end of his life. And it is so triggering. The other day, I was following a man into a store because I'm like, I couldn't believe how much he looked like my dad. Like, I literally had to keep looking at him in his face. He had a shirt on like my uncle would have had on. Like, I'm like, it's too many similarities in these moments. And I see the signs and everything. So that was my most recent one.
So I actually backtracked to a question from earlier because you mentioned Katie's. So what other places like Katie's do you feel like are...
Like my homegrown.
Yeah. What are your home spots? What's your home base?
Katie's for sure. Bayou Beer Garden. So I'm like grandfathered in at Bayou Beer Garden. I've known one of the oldest bartenders there since I was like 14 in high school. Okay? All them underage kids and how that's like not cool anymore. Yeah, I was the underage kid that literally would go there in my school uniform and walk into that bar and sit at the back table in that corner before they demoed it behind that first fireplace when you walk in the main hallway by the corner where you order food and stuff. that little area back there used to be like a dartboard and a little table.
Yeah, I remember that.
Back then, when Bayou Beer Garden started, one of the most iconic things they had was they chicken tenders and fries. All right, like genuine bar food, and it's like
bar food was great.
If you had people that was in a bar when you was a kid, you know what real bar food is like versus what it is now. Like, it's not the same. And
There's a couple spots.
Yeah, still.
Like Cuda Brown's is still Cuda Brown's.
Yeah. There's a couple spots.
But it's the same thing. We've lost a lot of like the 24-hour, like, trolley stop being closed.
Facts.
Jeans being closed.
Jeans is another major one. That still breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Love Baldwin and Co. Love what they've done with the place over there. But Jeans breaks my heart that nobody in this city, in this community, wanted to save Jeans. Like, that kills me.
They just let Melba
All
stay.
Jeans needed was an overhaul. All Jeans needed was to just be built out and turned into an actual establishment and not just a hole in the wall corner store. You know what I'm saying? Like, that killed me that nobody saw the opportunity to do that. They would have been on Guy's Ferraris. They would have been another Katie's. If they would have just revamped Jeans and re-put in the money where it belonged, like, so much would have changed in that instance. And that's another good one.
Jeans, Katie's Bayou Beer Garden.
Yeah, so like the Fillmore being turned around. I mean, everything they're doing with Caesars and things like that. It's not like a staple in New Orleans, but when you think about Harris and when you think about like the old times, Celebration Station from when we was kids, like these kids, even late 90s babies don't even know about Celebration Station. Like my own sister, I don't think Sarah ever. My birthday party at Celebration Station was before Sarah was born, I think. No, maybe it was after. But she was a baby. So, like, she does not recall.
Yeah. So
those main ones for sure. Now it's a damn dealership. Oh, Tom's Picayune building. Now it's the 504 Golf. Like, it's like RIP to Free Press. You know what I mean? Major staples.
The fucking 504 shit is retarded.
So,
what's gonna happen is
crazy.
What's gonna happen is
why is 12-year-old Asian kids running that hoe?
That's hilarious.
The owner's kids are walking around with iPads telling everybody what to do, y'all.
Shout out to Vietnam.
Y'all.
Them shits are gonna fall directly into the interstate in a fucking hurricane, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh my god, we didn't think about it." This shit is gonna hit. Like, that's what's gonna happen. We're gonna break I-10.
Brent, I didn't think about that.
And that's what'll take down 610.
Those things, they have to be, they're in the ground.
For now.
Friend, they're in the ground. Friend, them things had to been put like 100 plus feet deep in the ground.
I'm just saying. If there's enough, my thing is this: you get enough wind, enough water under the ground. I don't care how deep it is. We got water nearby.
You're right. You're right. Friend, the river right there.
Like, I'm just saying.
Bro, that's crazy.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be the whole thing. I'm just worried about debris in general. Like, you're just adding something right there that I'm like.
Son, that's crazy. I didn't think about that.
Let's see. What stories or truths do you think are often left out of mainstream narratives about New Orleans?
Who the history belongs to.
Black people?
Yeah, black people, Native American Indians, like who the city belongs to.
I mean, frankly, even
Wall Street,
even the Cajuns, all of them. Cajuns get their recognition, but Cajuns also don't help themselves because of who they vote for. The only reason I'm bringing them up is because there's an erasure of their relationship with New Orleans a lot of the time. It's like there's still Cajun folk in New Orleans.
Facts.
Yes, there's way more in this other area, but
Facts. No, I agree with that. Yeah. But that's a testament to their conservative education and upbringing, just like the discussions we were having earlier, and them moving out, right? Yeah. Because black people were pushed in. And slaves came off the ship. And when you separate the white from the black again, people push out. Same thing like in my grandma's neighborhood. My grandma's neighborhood was nothing but retired white people when my grandma was still there and I was a child. Mm-hmm. And when the apartment complex was taken over, and that was like the first thing that was bought by somebody who didn't give a fuck, and then they put a whole bunch of Spanish people in it from Honduras, and they was cool.
Yeah, of course.
They minded their business, man.
They have their own community. They're doing their thing.
Who gives a fuck that it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and they got 6 people living in it? It's none of your business.
That's what they do.
Get the fuck.
That's what they do in their country.
It's how they live.
I don't care.
They're not bothering you.
Yeah.
But because they all seen them, the neighbors down the street moved to Montana. The neighbors over there moved to Texas. The neighbors over there moved to Idaho to go plant potatoes. I don't know. Everybody left. And that is a true testament to just, like, They want to take their history with them, let them, but let's not whitewash and erase the true history of New Orleans, how we came to be, who settled here first, where the recognition comes from, and giving that recognition to the right people is important. They still fight for that every day. Not enough of people like us speak on it.
What do you hope New Orleans becomes for people like us, like natives of New Orleans?
Everything we wanted it to be.
What would that be to you?
I mean, continuously rebuilding the city, but maybe not in the way that we've been doing it. I'm very optimistic about the upcoming election for mayor.
I think Moreno will win.
I agree.
That's what I want.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think she.
No offense to the other guy. I like that he's like. I like that the story of all this is great, whatever. But you've already been. You've gone to jail and done all that. I don't need to do that again.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly really need for it to be her. Even for my own business, professional networking and relationships, and what I'm trying to achieve in the city to shift the real estate market and the trajectory of the standards that we hold, not only owners but tenants too, and things like that. That really is important to me. We still have a lot of work to do. I feel defeated when I really think about the optimism overall and how long it's going to take, and are we ever going to see it in our lifetime because of the corruption at stake and the money that's involved. You know what I mean? We're a tourist city. They don't give a shit about anything other than that, for real. The terrorist attack was extremely triggering. That was a whole nother catalyst to really considering is New Orleans home for real? You know what I mean? I was supposed to go out that night. I know people who know a woman who was tragically killed, and even I don't like saying that and acknowledging that, but that's just how close to home it was.
What a loser terrorist though. What a loser.
Well, look.
I'm sorry, if you're gonna do a terror attack, what a loser.
Friend, well,
I'm sorry.
When you say that, but you do the research on why.
Yeah.
That man was ostracized from his own home government, ours.
Yeah.
That man was ostracized from, his
I get his reason. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
the action failed, brother.
No, it did. It did to a degree.
And that kind of sucks.
But it also,
for him,
I think he was crashing out in that moment, because what they never disclosed was that he was seen circling Canal multiple times.
Yeah, they talked about. I ended up seeing shit about that.
So they why, for the amount of people that were out there, and U.S. Marshals and so forth, why wasn't he stopped the second, third, fourth time he circled before he did that shit? Before he just said fuck it and rammed that shit.
Well, because it's a tourist city, it's probably an Uber driver who's dropping somebody off. That's going to be the mindset.
Well, yeah, no, I understand that, but at the same time, because of how heightened everything was in the climate, that should not have been mixed. For the amount of U.S. Marshals and everybody out there with snipers and everybody on corners and cops at every corner on the phone, Joseph, whatever the case may be, huddled up together and then our chief of police insulted the fuck out of our intelligence. She was like, I had no idea we had those. And I'm like, you coming from the biggest state in this country.
I just didn't know when that old ass lady became a police chief. I was like, who's this old ass lady?
I thought I liked her coming from California, but when she made that statement, I was just like, oh, you have no common sense. Because what do you mean you come back down here and you sitting at a round table for a whole week being introduced to the city, and you don't ask for an inventory sheet on how to prevent terrorist acts in our city when we're about to host the Super Bowl, the largest Mardi Gras to date in travel, and every other event that we had behind it. I don't understand. Even when you look at security measures in other states on their sidewalks, like Washington and Colorado and bigger states, they have non-drivable streets all over the place. There's walking only streets, and they have the big cement bolsters that line the sidewalk. Not lining the sidewalk yet.
I don't know if we need I do think
we do. I want to try to create a patent with an engineer to make that shit happen.
I think there's a limit. The only reason I push back a little bit is you go too far and you become too much of a police-oriented state.
Right.
And it's safety is important.
Right.
But some of this shit, right? And I'm gonna stop this now.
Okay. We went over.
Yeah, and we were about to. With some of this shit, it should have already happened.
Right.
Right? But like, for example, I don't want bolsters uptown. There's not a point for it.
No, I agree with that.
Put it on Canal.
No, I think
put
it's
it
only
on
Canal. It's only
and
really
maybe on
Canal.
Frenchman.
Yeah,
and honestly, for a bunch of these blocks, just make them non-drivable anyway.
Right.
That's okay.
No, that's literally it though.
That's better for our city anyway.
That's
People already
literally
walk.
it.
Just make most of the corridor harder to drive.
Put fucking gates around them for the tenants who have to live on them.
Just make it harder to drive. That's okay.
Yeah,
like, I'm not mad at that. Because also, like, we had been warned, they had said a while ago that we were more at risk for a terror attack in the regard that it occurred.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks, right?
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, and I want to give the people who usually do a lot of this work credit,
right.
like, think about how many festivals and parades we do that go off without a fucking hitch. Or the worst hitch is some, like...
Wait, you want to know something, though?
But some hitch is like inter-block beef, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not... I don't really care about that, right? Like, one of my issues of the narratives about New Orleans is New Orleans is so dangerous. New Orleans is so dangerous. Bro, if you're not in the cut, you're out the cut. Like, you basically can avoid it.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So, for me, it's crazy because, wait, fun fact, not really a fun fact, but crazy thing, because I went down the rabbit hole after the terrorist attack. I was like, how bad is this? Because I don't believe mainstream media at all. And America has never, ever witnessed a suicide bomber. Like, never have we ever, in the history of America, have had a guy walk into an arena or a concert or a football game
it's always guns.
and blow that shit
it's
up.
Guns. The closest we have is Timothy McVeigh with Oklahoma City. But he didn't physically die.
No. He was just shooting at people.
No. He didn't. He bombed it.
Oh, he bombed?
Yeah.
What did he do?
But he wasn't a suicide bomber.
Right. No. He bombed it. Yeah, no, that's not the same thing. But I'm saying, like, that instance of, like, a person walking in, opening a vest, and blowing that shit, and killing thousands of people never happened.
Yeah.
The closest thing we had to was the marathon, the Chicago Marathon.
No, Boston.
Boston.
Or you could say potentially, and yes, it's guns again, but the Ariana Grande concert where the dude just starts fucking sniping motherfuckers.
No, so closest thing, but not that scenario, right? Yeah. It's bound to happen.
Yeah, probably.
And the reason I'm saying that is because America is not disclosing, we're talking about the borders. We all need to be focused on the fact that Al-Qaeda and ISIS are literally training their insurgents to not identify with nobody.
Right.
They're sending them to the camps that America is paying for with our tax dollars because we're paying the Taliban to not kill us and not go to war against us. We're paying their families to just mind their business and stay in their compounds, quote unquote. We send them money in a plane every month. We buy their silence, quote unquote. No. They're funding their war camps and they're training these people to not speak and not identify as anything.
Yeah.
And then they're sending them to the biggest countries that can get them a passport and an identity, like Brazil. Mm-hmm. And then they get their little Brazilian fake passport, and then they enter through the Bermuda Triangle, and then they're in our country. Mm-hmm. And now we're at 1,300 or more from January that I'm aware of, based on the research I've done, coming from CIA agents where this is their job.
Yeah.
And we're talking about whistleblowers within our government who don't sign the NDAs and who don't join these government agencies, because if you join the government agency and you're on a board, you're silenced.
I mean, the biggest concern with all of this is that in any time period where we were government as usual, I'd feel more confident. But we're government at a gutted point. And so,
an authority,
because look, I'm going to be honest, I do have a high level of trust for our intelligence agency regarding them keeping us safe, because by and large they do. You gut these entities though, and they can't. Not they won't, not they didn't, they cannot. And that's just period. You know what I mean? That's across all these state agencies. But I got like 3 questions left, so let's blast through.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in this city in 5 years? And this city, not in this city. Where do you see yourself and this city?
I don't see myself in NOLA in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be really surprised if I'm still here in 5 years. I see NOLA thriving, I see NOLA getting on the up and up, but I don't know if I see my people in NOLA either. You know what I mean? I think we're all kind of getting to that point where it's like, are we really going to stay here? We're getting older. We're getting, I don't...
Motherfuckers want money, man.
Yeah.
Resilience?
Yeah. I don't.
This is literally how I had this question in my thing.
Yeah.
Resilience? Question mark. I've talked to everybody about it because, like, look, the general consensus is this: we all know we're resilient.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that it's a matter of life here, but we don't like hearing it from others. It's like you could talk shit about Sarah all you want to, but if someone random came up to you and started talking shit about Sarah, you would still be like, "Hey, yo," even though you might not even really rock with Sarah like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. The last question's a fun one anyway.
But back to that, I feel like I didn't even answer it. Like,
yeah, another resilience question mark.
I don't like using that word for New Orleans because it's deeper than that, you know? We shouldn't have to be this resilient. Why does Louisiana have to be like painted as this like fighting symbol? You know what I mean? Yeah. Why do we accept that the government would love for a hurricane to just wipe us off the map? Like, that's been discussed since before Katrina. We all have our conspiracies about that. You know? Yeah. Like, they literally flooded parts of New Orleans to reconfigure New Orleans. Like, Lakeview, for what it is right now, is not what it was before Katrina.
No, I mean, a huge part of Lakeview's problem, so I've done a ton of so I know a lot about the whole water plane. I know a lot about how the land physically works because our department's anthropology and geography, so we learn a lot of geography too. The unfortunate reality about Lakeview in particular, and all of the suburbs of New Orleans, is that when FDR was in power, they like you spoke about earlier, they redlined. However, the way that worked in New Orleans meant Uptown, which at the time was mostly black, all black basically.
Yes.
That meant Uptown was rated as F neighborhood.
Yes.
Unfortunately though, Uptown and anything close to the river is higher ground. So you pump out all this water in the water table out in Lakeview. And so already it's under sea level, which is a problem. But you add a second problem, that land sinks. So areas that were several feet higher years ago are several feet lower. So you can get a really bad rainstorm.
And be fucked.
Yeah, then it doesn't matter if Lake Pontchartrain now has locks and the water won't get pushed in the city. Okay, it won't, sure. Right? Because look, the truth of this, and you should read this book, it's called Katrina 1915 to 2015 by Andy Horowitz. And it lays out how Katrina is a complete... America has a problem with viewing natural disaster as a God-given thing that they didn't have any control. We wash our hands.
We created.
The reality is Katrina was a completely man-made debacle, and I don't mean in the sense because look, there's no proof that anywhere got bombed. In this flooding, there is proof of the old ones. Unfortunately, I've even found the disproof of the barge didn't break the levee. It was already broken, and then it went through. Now the barge just destroyed a bunch of houses. But the levee was already busted. You know, so there's some wives' tales that aren't true. However, the fact of the matter is, it's our fault. We didn't literally they had people come from the Netherlands after Katrina, and their exact quote is, "Why'd you let the devil in?" Because what we did is we cut it out to where the water went through the middle of the city. But you let it, so that meant with no block, Lake Pontchartrain, which is not a lake. It's a part of the Gulf of Mexico. It's not a lake. Which everyone thinks is a lake. Ain't no lake.
It's a part of the
that
Gulf.
shit just gets pushed into the city. You have flood walls made from dredged land from the Mississippi that's porous. The water is just going to go through it. And unfortunately, all of those things were not up to the code that they had agreed to, that they signed on to do. So it was an epic fail. And that doesn't even mention like the Mr.
And nobody
Go.
takes accountability for it.
No, but that doesn't mention the Mr. Go. That doesn't mention how the water has crept up, why there's not land. You know, there's a lot of people who, you know, someone said this, I had two conferences last week that I did virtually, and in one of them I got a comment from somebody, and they were talking, and they were completely correct, about how if you look at Louisiana, it's a boot. It's not a boot. And what I said to them is, if you've ever read the Grimm's fairy tale version of Cinderella, what the stepsisters start to do to try to get their foot to fit in, one stepsister cuts her heel off, the other stepsister cuts her toes off. What Louisiana is at this point is the boot with no toes. We're that kicker that the Saints used to have that had the half a foot. That's what we are. You know, and that's what the modern maps are too. Like you mentioned something earlier, and then I will, now I'm just talking.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Like, the issue of New Orleans long term for our age people is that the Army Corps of Engineers has told us how long that they will keep the levees up, and most of us are not aware of that.
Right.
They have agreed to sign on until 2072.
Wow.
In theory, yes, it could get pushed again. I kind of doubt it.
Yeah.
By 2072, we're probably Grand Isle.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we'll be totally Atlantis,
Right.
but there's this notion that I don't think New Orleanians get. They're not going to refix it every time because eventually they can't. Like, it's not worth it, unfortunately. And eventually what will happen with that is you let the Mississippi move.
Right.
You let it go to the Atchafalaya.
Right.
You let it go the route it actually wants to.
That's the issue that people don't recognize, too, is like the Mississippi River before a lot of settlement happened.
No, it meanders.
To it moved.
No, it does.
Yeah.
It almost jumped in 2018 or 19.
Right, yeah.
It was very close.
Yeah, when it wanted to flood New Orleans then, too. Yeah, that's what you're talking about.
It wants to jump.
Yeah.
It wants to jump because naturally it wants to go a different route.
Yes.
That's what it does.
Yes.
Mount Rushmore of New Orleans foods to you.
Wait, what?
Mount Rushmore of New Orleans foods to you. It can either be like a dish itself or something from a particular place. And to you. So if that means it's red beans and gumbo, great. If that means it's some other shit, great.
Nah, it'll really be some charboiled oysters for me.
Oh yeah, okay. Okay, so that's one.
That's
you get four, so charboiled oysters
is up there.
Yeah, those are elite.
A Cuban sandwich from Canseco's.
That's real. From the original?
Yeah.
The one at Esplanade?
From the original, yeah, from the original, straight from Esplanade.
Yeah. That shit is good.
Man. Okay, so this is a new one, but I fuck with them hard. It's called Good Bird. It's on Ferret.
Very good bird.
So fire. Their sandwiches are mwah. Another one would be Milk Bar. That's at the very end of South Carrollton and the river. Milk Bar sandwiches, milkshakes out of this fucking world. I love me a good sandwich. For bigger dishes, I'm always gonna throw Katie's on there. You know, Katie's will never fail me for the most part. Love their dough bearish, cakes that they get and stuff like that. They have their dish that I love the most would probably be their catfish manure. It's literally fried catfish over like a glaze and French fries. Chef's fucking kiss, can never go wrong. It's like a Louisiana French fish and chips, if I'm being real. Like, it's just so good. Dang, was that number 4?
I think we got to like 6.
Yeah.
Now you have a big fat ass.
I am a fat ass.
Well, there we go. Well, we can wrap there, shit. Or I guess most people have picked Snowball, so I guess I'm curious.
So, all right.
You have a Snowball place of choice?
Yeah, so my 2 Snowball places of choice. Okay, no, I'll say this. My main one would be Pandora's for sure, all day. Love me a good Pandora Snowball. But my new go-to is Chance and Hell Snowball.
Where is
You
that?
never heard of that? So this is a LGBTQ woman-owned, LGBTQ plus, sorry y'all, owned business. They started in a house. They started on their porch, somewhere uptown. And they landed a spot, let me tell y'all exactly where, because this needs to be known. And it's like a gourmet fucking Snowball, y'all. It's fire. They have different flavors every week. It's Friday, Monday 2 to 7, Saturday, Sunday 12 to 7, and it's 805 Louisa Street. And yeah, they are the shit. Pear snowballs, chocolate mocha, like way out of the box, different flavors. Wedding cake pina colada, like different things. I think they had an olive one, like crazy different things that you would never think that's out of the box, but are very like savory and good. And I would tell anybody, go support them and give them a shot.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Sweet.